gold closed down only about like $14 or $15. We're still at 2040. So even though we got this supposedly strong economic data, gold does not break support. Gold is still hanging in there. Yet despite that, they clobbered the gold stocks 4%. Now the gold stocks gained almost that much yesterday, but they lost more than yesterday's gains today because they're so afraid. And I think the markets assume that gold needs a rate cut in order to do well. And that's not true. And investors think, well, if we're going to have to wait a couple more months for the rate cuts, well, we're going to have to wait a couple more months for gold to go up. Gold doesn't need rate cuts. In fact, even if the Fed never cuts rates, gold is going way up. It's the stock market that needs the rate cuts. It's the bubble economy. It's the U.S. government that needs those rate cuts. Gold doesn't need rate cuts. Doesn't matter. Even if the Fed never cuts rates, I think gold is going to go ballistic. Because what's going to happen is the market is going to cut real rates because inflation is going to take off. And what matters to gold is not a nominal rate, but a real rate. And that is the rate of interest minus the inflation rate, and not the phony inflation rate reported by the government, but the actual inflation rate experienced by holders of U.S. dollars. The real loss of the dollar's purchasing power is what matters. And when the dollar really starts to fall, which it's going to do, it's going to matter a lot more to the international community that on the margin are the main buyers of our treasuries, the largest holders, outside of the Federal Reserve. It's these foreign central banks that have been loading up on dollars, and they're not going to hold them when the real rate collapses because they start seeing the exchange value of the dollar going down. And of course, the entire time, the domestic purchasing power of the dollar is also going to be tanking. So gold doesn't matter about interest rates. What matters about it is inflation and the fact that even if the Fed doesn't cut rates, it's not going to raise them. I would be shocked if the Fed raised rates before the election, no matter how bad the inflation numbers get, right? If inflation picks back up, I don't think the Fed's going to say, oh, no, we have to hike rates. They'll be saying we need more time, we need more data. This is probably transitory. If, maybe they'll come up with a different word than transitory because, that has bad connotations. So they'll have to come up with, something else. But, there are a lot of words they could use besides transitory that basically mean the same thing. But they're going to explain it away. They're not going to hike rates because hiking rates, the markets would crash. The bond market would crash because the markets expect rate cuts. And so if you simply delay the onset of the cuts, the markets can handle that. But if you put in a hike, that's a game changer. Because if the Fed starts hiking, the cuts are off the table, right? Because the Fed is not going to hike rates if it intends to cut them. So any rate hike destroys the whole thing, right? The whole narrative blows up. So there's no way we're going to have a rate hike. And in fact, Powell had said that. They removed the bias to tightening. So rate hikes are completely off the table, out of the question. So if inflation picks up and rates don't rise, real rates come down. That's great for gold. And that means inflation is going to get higher and higher. But the other big thing for gold is the money printing, the budget deficits. The national debt is up to 34.2 trillion now. And these guys in Congress, they just passed some other kind of tax cuts, right? They don't even care. It's like, well, let's just cut taxes, right? Instead of raising taxes or cutting spending, which is what you need to do when you have a massive budget deficit, they're just, well, let's just cut taxes some more. Let's just make the deficits even bigger, and staring at the fiscal ticking time bomb. So all the fundamentals are so bullish for gold. It doesn't even matter what these job numbers are. They're completely irrelevant. Yet, apparently, that's the only thing that counts as far as the traders are concerned. Oh, let's see what this government jobs number is, which is, irrelevant because it doesn't even matter because it's not even true. And let's sell gold off $20 and dump these gold stocks because we got a better than expected BS non-payroll report, and ignore the massive bullish case for gold. Gold should be many, many thousands of dollars an ounce higher right now than it already is. And so at some point, it's going to explode. Just like I said last podcast, I don't know when. None of these numbers are going to matter, right? It's just going to explode because all of a sudden we run out of sellers, and the sellers are going to run out of money and run out of gold. That's going to be the problem, right? The sellers aren't going to have the gold to sell, and the buyers are going to overwhelm it. So before it happens, you want to load up on gold and silver and these gold stocks. And days like today, where they sell these stocks off on numbers like this, where people who don't know anything about what they're doing or what's going to happen in the market, when they see that number and they sell these gold stocks, you want to buy them. And I think the smart money was buying these stocks all day, because all the declines in the gold stocks happened in the first 5 or 10 minutes of trading. They pretty much went sideways all day long as dumb money sold and smart money bought. So be the smart money, and you want to buy. Again, you got the Euro Pacific Gold Fund. You can get that no load at any of these discount brokers. Set up a managed account with Euro Pacific Asset Management and let Adrian Day manage a portfolio of very undervalued gold mining stocks. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a bit about politics, or something political. And, we wrote about this in the Shift Sovereign daily email. A lot of you might have noticed that you're getting these emails now from me at Shift Sovereign, which is my new venture that I launched with my friend James Hickman, who used to go by the pen name of Simon Black and now has gone back to his actual name. So we put out this daily email. And if you're not getting our daily emails, go to shiftsovereign.com and sign up for this free newsletter. But one of the things that we pointed out was what happened with the closure of another Walgreens in the Boston area. And this is the fourth store in the Boston area that Walgreens has decided to close since November of 2022. And so on the floor of the House of the U.S. Representatives, Democratic Representative Ayanna Pressley, who is a member of the squad, the leader of the squad. What's her name? I keep blanking on these names.
AOC.
Yeah, AOC leads the squad. You're but just like a bunch of socialists. But in any event, she got on the floor of the House of Representatives and basically denounced Walgreens as being racist. Shame on Walgreens. How dare they close down the store, and just really vilifying them. And of course, how can it be racist to close down the store? Well, because it's in a predominantly African-American neighborhood. And so clearly, if they're closing a store in an African-American neighborhood, it must be because they're racist. They just don't like black people, and so they're just shutting down this store. But businesses don't operate that way. It's expensive to shut down a store. I mean, if you've got a store, you've already opened it up, right? And you've incurred all the costs of getting that store open, right? Because you have to rent the space, you build a building, you got to build out the interior, you hire and train the staff. There's a major investment in setting up a Walgreens. And so once you got a Walgreens there, I mean, you don't want to shut it down. That's the last thing you want to do. And of course, the companies want to make a profit, right? I mean, the squad always wants to vilify, these evil companies, right? Trying to make profits. Profits are bad. Well, the reason that Walgreens is shutting down this store is because there's no profit there. You see, they attack profits, yet they attack companies who close stores that don't have a profit. So you can't attack profits and then attack a company that shuts down a money-losing store. Because if you don't like profits, then you don't like jobs. because you don't have jobs without profits. If you don't like profits, then you don't like stores. See, she's saying this is terrible because now people in the community have no place to buy their diapers or no place to buy a baby formula or medicine. You know the reason they had a place to buy those things? Because Walmart wanted to make a profit selling those things. The only reason anybody has the ability to go to a store and buy something is because the person or the company that owns that store was making a profit selling it. And the reason these stores are closing down is not because they're racist. No, it's because they're losing a ton of money in these stores. Now, why are they losing money? That's the question that the squad should be asking. The reason they're losing money is because so many of their customers aren't paying for the products. They are stealing them. Shoplifting has gone through the roof. That's why the stores are being shut down, because they're losing a ton of money because of crime. And if they want to buy insurance, well, the insurance companies know that they can't cover this stuff because they know stuff is going to be stolen. And so that's the reason. So instead of railing against Walmart and the greedy racist corporation that's closing this money-losing store, why aren't they saying something about all the criminals that are the reason that the store is being closed? And I'm sure those criminals are mostly African American too. After all, it's an African American community. So if most of their customers are African American, well, then probably most of the people stealing are African American too. So